Okay, folks, time for some more uncomfortable facts. As you can see, this is something from my Google Plus before Google Plus went down the tubes. I saved it. You ever wonder why people in 1850 were so tough? Because they had to be. So one drawback of all these great, wonderful capitalistic things we have today to make our lives so easy is it produces a lot of wussies. So I'm just going to read off what I have and see the link underneath the video for all this and all the links. I covered this in my video on Social Security, the number of folks getting on disability for mood disorders, and it started gaining steam in the 1980s. This is part and parcel of this. These are some of the reasons I blame we the people, and not all of we the people, but a sizable minority of them. This is one of the reasons I blame we the people almost as much as the government for our current state of affairs. We are in deep trouble, folks, and these are the clowns that are supposed to fill leadership positions in the coming decades. Yikes. I get depressed too at times, even one time to the point of being constantly in a state of worry. But if you really want to know how good you have it, fire up your smartphone and go on Facebook, that's the internet, and whine about all your problems. Then go look at your flush toilet. Why? Because in 1850 your ancestors didn't have one. Want to interact with Grandma 500 miles away? FaceTime her, call her, email her, drive over there this weekend. In 1850 that didn't happen. You'd probably never see Grandma again. Oh, if you needed antibiotics in 1850, guess what? They didn't exist. Go home and die. Want to go to town and get a sub sandwich? Didn't happen in 1850, but you can do that today, most likely, even if you live in a podunk town. In 1850, you took the horse and carriage into town, and that likely took a good chunk of the day. You'd be chopping wood all summer and fall so you didn't freeze to death in the winter. Today, your furnace does all that for you. Let's complain about all the for-profit enterprises that will fix your furnace too. Today, your furnace does all that for you. If it was 100 degrees in 1850, go swim in the river all day if you had time, if you had that leisure time. Today, you just fire up your central air conditioning or window air conditioner. What a bunch of weenies. Now, getting to the crux of this, mental illness diagnoses have been increasing in the United States ever since, surprise, surprise, big money drugs for them were developed, then taxpayer funded through health welfare programs starting in the 1960s under LBJ. Taxpayers now pay for the majority of U.S. mental health services, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. Stan Seder, are you listening? Concurrently, colleges have for several years been reporting spikes in mental health problems among students, and the Wall Street Journal reports some new numbers. Quote, as many as 1 in 4 students at some elite U.S. colleges are now classified as disabled, largely because of mental health issues such as depression or anxiety, while they have smartphones and flush toilets and cars and cooling and heating and grocery stores, entitling them to a widening array of special accommodations like longer time to take exams. Small private schools have the greatest concentration of students with disabilities among the 104-year not-for-profit colleges, with the highest percentage of disabled students. 93 are private, according to a Wall Street Journal analysis of federal data. Public schools have also seen a significant uptick in test accommodations. No wonder this country's going down. Soyboys like Stan Seder and David Miss Pac-Man and Lena Dunham. At least I think, oh, never mind, Lena Dunham's a woman. From 2011 to 2016, the number of students with special accommodations increased by an average of 71% among 22 flagship state schools, according to data obtained by the Wall Street Journal. Bunch of weenies. The article concludes this graph. Again, go to the link I put underneath the video, in which you can see that while all claimed disabilities have ticked up since 2010, the biggest jump has been in self-described psychological disorders. I'm bipolar. I can't do it. I got a chronic lateness syndrome or fatigue syndrome. you've got something. A Wall Street Journal report from last summer about colleges amping up their counseling services included this graph showing that huge percentages of college students say they feel overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, even suicidal. Colleges are responding by installing live-in counselors that you pay for in dorms and hiking fees to pay for additional psychological health staff. Man, these people wouldn't have made it in 1850. There's no way. They would have either made it or they wouldn't, period. Viewed one way, this is a little confusing. Certainly, I often felt stressed while in college, but I worked more than full-time hours on academics due to genuinely challenging curriculum while holding senior positions in campus life and part-time jobs. This isn't me speaking again. This is the article. Go look at the link. That's not the typical college experience data show. The average full-time college student today spends less than 20 hours per week on academics, meaning class time and study combined. Typical students spend far more time on leisure activities like shopping and socializing than on academics. And if you go to the link, you'll see the items in bold are the article. And if it's not in bold, then that's me speaking. You can't tell me 20 hours a week of the typically milquetoast make work that doesn't genuinely deserve to be called academics is so stressful that it causes 2/3 of college students to feel overwhelming anxiety. I've seen graduate level assignments that comprise writing brief online forum posts and PowerPoint presentations, and not from the kind of institutions people think of as diploma mills either. If a 6th grader can do it, it's not graduate level work, let alone college level work. Nearly half of college students make no noticeable academic improvement in their first 2 years of college, yet approximately 85% of college students are receiving taxpayer subsidies. We're paying millions of young people to hang around, learn very little, and indulge themselves with taxpayer underwritten luxuries like leisure pools, lazy rivers, and comedy shows. Here's some data from the Kaiser piece, and keep in mind that in 2009, 45.7% of people cited could not afford cost as the main reason they didn't get mental health care. And also keep in mind that part of the reason premiums are so much higher is because of government mandates for almost everything that moves. See Obamacare's essential health benefits package, and a larger percentage of all health care expenditures being consumed by government on the federal level, read the taxpayer. See the video I cited at the link for more info on that. Here comes Bernie Sanders with someone's wallet to save the day. Here are some of the high points, or, well, better yet, low points. The current financing system for behavioral health services differs from that for general medical services. Most notably, public sources play a larger role in financing behavioral health care, representing 61% of expenditures than they do in overall health services, representing 46% of expenditures. In addition, while Medicaid and Medicare account for roughly equal shares of general health care financing, Medicaid's role in financing behavioral health services is more than 3 times larger than Medicare's 26% versus 7%. Last, state and local dollars play a larger role in behavioral health care than overall medical care, reflecting their historical role in financing these services. With the implementation of Oboingo care, Medicaid will be expanded to include nearly all individuals up to 133% of poverty. Many of these newly eligible individuals will have mental health needs. According to one analysis, Oboingo care will lead to nearly 2 million new Medicaid enrollees with probable depression or serious psychological distress. And over 1 million new enrollees without these disorders will also use some mental health services. See my video, Obamacare and the Great California and the Great Obamacare Medicaid expansion for info on Medicaid. Basically, Obamacare was just expansion of Medicaid. That wasn't anything else. It wasn't a reform. It was a takeover. It should have been called the Medicaid Expansion Act, period. On page Roman numeral 1, you will see that over the past year, this was 2007, from back, again, go to the link and you'll see it all. On page Roman numeral 1, you will see that over the past year, almost one-third, 32.4%, of all adults have some sort of behavioral disorder. It's one of these, disorders where they observe you and say you have a disorder rather than like taking blood from someone and saying, hey, you have this affliction. It's all an observance. So basically, it's not empirical. It's a lot of hocus pocus, a lot of psychological junk science. Wonder how many of them had a single parent household. Out of pocket, private, and other private only comprised 38%, the rest was government, of all behavioral health spending in 2005. So as and then like I mentioned earlier, in the 1960s when the floodgates opened for this, well, follow the money. As psychological government social engineering and our sewer drain culture has created more sissies, more disorders, the spigot has been opened wide, the gravy train is going. Mental health expenditures have grown, nominal dollars, from $32 billion in 1986 to $113 billion in 2005. This is way above CPI inflation. So much for those who say, we ain't spending enough on mental health care. We're spending plenty, but like a neocon who says we didn't send enough troops or spend enough money on a war, or a Keynesian who says this stimulus was too small, yarg, where's my Ritalin? It's never enough. America has become a nation of entitled brats, and it started gaining steam under FDR. More nails were added to the coffin under LBJ. Guys like Ronald Reagan, don't forget that entity called Congress, Nixon, George W. Bush, and Barry Oboingo didn't help either. The baby boomers largely sentenced us all to a fiscal suicide because millions and millions of them got on disability for frivolous reasons. You reap what you sow, folks. The parents of the baby boomers were responsible people. They weren't emasculated soyboys that we have, like Stan Seder that we have today. But they did vote for sociopaths like FDR and LBJ, folks who signed into law many of the bankrupt, insolvent, do-gooder programs that we have today. You have been warned. So again, go to the link underneath it. I have all the links to that if you want to peruse everything I covered. So America, the overmedicated, America, the irresponsible. America has become a nation of victims and a nation of sissies, and they know who they are.